Unfolding in Europe that is incredibly troubling. Even as Vladimir Putin arms Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, all those refugees are flooding Europe. New reports now indicate that Putin is exploring removing Assad from power. Officials from the U.S., Russia, and Saudi Arabia are said to be in talks to sideline Assad. Russia, believe it or not, Assad's longtime ally, but officials say the rise of ISIS has prompted the country to seek a united front against the group. Here now, retired U.S. Navy Captain Chuck Nash, who spent more than 25 years as a naval aviator. He is a Fox News contributor. Also, we've got Walid Phares, Fox News Middle East and terrorism expert. Gentlemen, welcome to you. Walid.
Thank you.
This seems to me the strangest of bedfellows. And how would they actually coordinate? How could we and the Russians coordinate an Assad exit? How would that even work, Walid?
Well, we have already coordinated the Iran deal. The Russians helped us. We have now a one partner that is Iran. But beyond that, President Obama has since 2011 asked Assad to step down as a prelude to the solution, but the Russians refused that. So the Russians are going to ask for a very high price. That is their presence in Syria, Iran's presence in Syria, and some economic assets. Then they will consider removing Assad, but not, exiting Assad out of Syria, maybe to a region in Syria, and then they would negotiate who will be in Damascus. It's not as easy as we think.
Chuck Nash, how would this work from a military perspective for the U.S.? Would we need to commit more troops? Would we need to commit more forces? Because for the fourth party in this report about these discussions is Syrian rebels.
Yeah, I don't think the Russians would have any part of U.S. presence in Syria, nor would we want to have U.S. presence in Syria. It is a mess. When you start thinking of Syria, I think we should really start thinking about Bosnia, because that's what it's looking like it's going to be, a three-way partition. And that may not be the end game solution as history sees it 20 years from now, but to get things settled down and to stop the firing, I think it's going to break into a Kurdish area, a government-controlled area, and then a rebel-controlled area, and then they're going to negotiate where they go from there.
Well, but you know what, Chuck, real quick, the Russians have put tanks there. That is their only naval base outside of Russia. It's strategically crucial to them. That's the hard part here is to make sense of the fact that the Russians, who've been backing Assad, funding Assad, would now be a part of working with us to push him out the door, or at least into a different role.
Well, and it's because I think what the Russians are seeing is that they're seeing the flow of more and more Muslims up into Europe on their Western front. They're already dealing with problems in the Caucasus, and the longer this war continues in Syria, the more uncertain things become. And they do not want to see Syria fall to Sunni Islamists.
Walid, we are looking at a map right now at the Russian military buildup within Syria. And as you mentioned just a few moments ago, is that, you're going to have different factions in power, whether it's ISIS, whether it's the Assad regime, whether you have rebels that can take over here. Is there a scenario within the next year to 2 years that we could see a stable Syria, in your opinion?
It is going to be very difficult. We may see 3 stable Syrias if they are formed, and then there is a ceasefire between all 3, as Captain said. But at least one area the Russians are going to make sure to obtain is between Turkey and the Lebanese borders. This is what they want to have, a build-up, a military build-up. Then the Kurds are more or less stable. Everything else is at play between the Assad regime, mostly Alawi, and the Sunni jihadists all over Syria.
And obviously the Saudis have a very vested interest in getting, Syria stabilized, in particular since they've had issues with Iran, and this is their backyard, and they've got to focus on this. Captain Chuck Nash, Walid Phares, gentlemen, thank you very much. Incredible story. I'm sure we'll talk to you about it soon.